I woke up and saw a set of eyes that were so icy they could freeze hell. There was a woman sitting on the couch across from me. Her presence was enormous, and her posture was exquisite. She wore a fitted black suit, her long legs crossed and covered in dark stockings. The line stiff and uncompromising. Sophia Blackwell was her name. Legally, my wife. Ethan, let's get a divorce. Her voice was as cold as the rest of her. A file slipped over the coffee table toward me. Hearing the words divorce agreement was like a strike to the belly. My head was buzzing. A million broken memories that weren't mine forcing themselves to come together. The first guy, whose body I was now in, was also named Ethan. Ethan Clark, an orphan. Married into the renowned Blackwell family 2 years ago. There was a simple reason. Arthur Blackwell, the family patriarch, was old school and superstitious. A fortune teller had informed him of a huge disaster that would befall his granddaughter Sophia in her 25th year. One tragedy could only be averted by marrying a man with a robust fate. So unlucky Ethan got the nod. For 2 years he lived like a dog. The Blackwells detested him. Sophia treated him like furniture. He ranked lower in the home than their Alaskan Malamute, a beast named General. Yesterday, the original Ethan had accidentally discovered Sophia's business rival. Covertly meeting with her younger brother, Kevin, he was discovered, and in his distress, he tumbled down the great staircase from the second floor. One dead-end existence traded for another. And then there was me, a soul from a parallel Earth, a software architect who, at 35, was just about to cash out and achieve financial freedom. Now, I was here. Sign this, and $500,000 on this card is yours. Seeing my lack of reaction, Sophia took a debit card from her purse and shoved it over the table. $500,000, the buyout for 2 years of marriage, or rather 2 years of shame. The Blackwells undoubtedly believed it was an act of enormous kindness. I lifted my head and glanced at Sophia. She was unquestionably lovely, her features immaculate, combined into a magnificent portrait of untouchable beauty. But right now, in those frigid eyes, I felt a flare of something different, a tension she couldn't quite hide. What was she terrified of? My new recollections revealed me this ice queen of a lady typically couldn't be bothered to even glance at her useless husband. Today, she was initiating the divorce and giving money. When something seems too good to be true, it usually is. Still, it was just what I desired. A kept husband, a good luck charm, a sad loser. You've got to be kidding me. I'd worked myself to the bone in my past existence and never got to appreciate it. Given a second chance, there was no way I was going to live like that again. I don't want the money, I said. My voice was rough from waking up. Sophia's brow wrinkled, an almost imperceptible movement. She seemed astonished. Behind her, her assistant, a man with thin-rimmed glasses, twisted his lip in a sneer. "Don't push your luck, Ethan," the assistant Mark remarked coldly. "Miss Blackwell's time is valuable. If you don't want $500,000, are you saying it's not enough?" I ignored him, my eyes fixated on Sophia. I enunciated each word. I said, "I don't want the money. I'll walk away with nothing." The room fell silent. Mark's expression froze on his face like he'd seen a ghost. Sophia's eyes eventually strayed. A blend of amazement, confusion, and a sense of terror. Yes, panic. I wasn't mistaken. Now things were getting intriguing. "Are you sure?" She leaned forward slightly as if attempting to read something on my face. "I'm sure." I grabbed up the pen from the table, didn't even peek at the agreement, and flipped directly to the last page. With a flourish, I signed Ethan Clark, done. I dropped the pen down and leaned back into the comfortable sofa, letting out a big breath. "There you go, Miss Blackwell. Pleasure doing business with you. From this day on, I was a free man." Sophia stared at the signed agreement, unmoving for a long while. Her fingers tapped mindlessly on the arm of the sofa, the cadence a touch too rapid. Why so agreeable?" she finally inquired. I smiled. "What's the alternative? Cling to your leg and beg you not to abandon me? We're adults, Miss Blackwell. Isn't it better to have some dignity? You don't want any compensation. No. I rose up, brushing off imaginary dust from my clothes. I've eaten at the Blackwell's table for 2 years. That's enough. I don't have much, only a backpack. I'll go get it and be out of your hair. I turned to head upstairs, but Sophia's voice stopped me. Wait. I looked back. It's late, she remarked, her tone tight. Somewhere between an order and a plea. You can depart tomorrow. I froze. What was this woman's game? She was the one rushing the divorce, and now she was the one telling me not to go. Miss Blackwell, what is this? I mean, the agreement doesn't take effect until tomorrow. You're still staying here tonight, she added as if to assert her control. That's final. With that, she took the agreement, didn't look at me again, and marched up the stairs. The clack of her heels sharp and definite, leaving me with an utterly perplexed Mark. Don't imagine for a second Miss Blackwell has altered her mind. Mark snapped, recovering himself. You'd better stay in line and be gone first thing in the morning. I just shrugged. Of course. I didn't anticipate she'd change her mind. I just assumed this woman was hiding something, and whatever her secret was, it seemed to have something to do with me. I didn't go back to my room. I wandered into the kitchen instead. The Sub-Zero was packed with components. I grabbed a few eggs and made myself a decent omelet. If the original Ethan had learned one thing these past 2 years, it was how to cook. The Blackwells had a housekeeper, but no one was going out of their way to make meals for the useless son-in-law. The smell of butter and herbs filled the air. I was just about to dig in when a figure arrived in the doorway. It was Sophia. She changed out of her business armor and was wearing a silk pajama set. Her long hair hung down, reducing her sharp edges and giving her a relaxed domestic look. Her gaze landed on my omelet, and I thought I saw her swallow. You hungry? I said. She didn't answer, but her glance was honest enough. There's more in the pan, I said, indicating toward the stove. She hesitated for a bit, then really walked over, found a dish, and served herself. Her movements were a little sloppy, an obvious hint she didn't do this often. Then she just stood there, leaning against the counter, taking one bite at a time. The big kitchen was peaceful, except for the faint noises of us eating. The vibe was odd. Why did you have a sudden change of heart today? She couldn't keep back the inquiry. Change of heart concerning what? The divorce. Oh. I took another bite. I guess the crash down the stairs knocked some sense into me. The hand holding her fort hesitated. She looked up at me, her expression complicated. You recall everything? Remember what? I played dumb yesterday. Why you tumbled down the stairs? My gut constricted. She was testing me. I set down my plate, wiped my lips, and let my countenance grow serious. Miss Blackwell, because we're getting a divorce, it's better if some things are left unsaid. For your sake and for mine. The original Ethan's killing featured her brother Kevin conspiring with a business rival. This was a Blackwell family scandal. If I exposed it, the family's reputation and Sophia's position would take a significant impact. To her, my statements must have sounded like a threat or a negotiating strategy. Sure enough, Sophia's face transformed. What do you want? Her voice grew colder. Money shares in Blackwell Enterprises. Looking at her protective posture, I almost laughed. Miss Blackwell, do you think everyone in the world wants something from you? I shook my head. Relax. I don't want anything. I just want to leave quietly and start my new life. I don't believe you, she stated frankly. Believe anything you desire. I was done explaining. I picked up my plate to leave. Stop, she called out. Ethan, I'm warning you. Don't you dare reveal a word of what you know to anyone. If you do, I have 100 ways to make sure you can't survive in this city. The threat was so unoriginal. I turned around and offered her a beautiful smile. Good night, Miss Blackwell, watching her face register another wave of shock in my reply. I went upstairs in a surprisingly pleasant mood. Back in the small room I'd occupied for 2 years, I started to pack. There wasn't much. A few cheap clothes, an ancient phone, and some advanced books on programming and algorithms. The original guy had bought these in secret. They were his sole solace. I packed the books into my backpack, a tentative plan already formulating in my thoughts. The tech level in this environment was around 5 to 10 years behind my own, especially in the internet industry. Many of the business models that were mature where I came from were only sprouting here. Short-form video, live broadcast, e-commerce, the sharing economy. These were all opportunities. I didn't need the Blackwells or anyone else. With what was in my thoughts, earning a reputation for myself in this world would be child's play. Just then, there was a knock on the door. I opened it to find Sophia standing there. "Take this," she said, handing something out. It was a brand new phone, the current flagship model. "I can't accept this," I said. "It's not for you." Her excuses were usually so inventive. "Your current phone is ancient. You won't even be able to obtain an Uber in the morning. I don't want you wasting my time." "Fine." I took it. "How much is it?" "I'll pay you back when I make some money." "Don't bother," she murmured, turning to leave. She took the steps, then paused. Without turning back, she said, "Tomorrow is a family dinner. You're coming, too." I was shocked. "Ms. Blackwell, we're getting divorced tomorrow. Is it really appropriate for me to attend your family dinner?" "Grandfather expressly asked for you." Her voice was bland. "He's been wonderful to you these past 2 years. Think of it as, say a proper goodbye." With that, she walked away quickly as if she were being chased. I stood there clutching the new phone, deep in thought. What on earth was this woman playing at? 1 minute she's kicking me out. The next she's handing me a phone and inviting me to a family dinner. Was she suffering a breakdown? Or was there some kind of trap waiting for me at tomorrow's dinner? The next morning, I was woken up by a succession of angry calls from Mark. I got downstairs. Sophia was already at the dinner table. She was wearing a beige trench coat, her hair pulled back, displaying the exquisite line of her neck. She seemed much gentler today. The table was set with an elegant breakfast, but she hadn't touched it. "Let's go." Seeing me, she scooped up her handbag and stood. I followed her out and got in her Bentley. The journey was unnervingly quiet. I could feel her staring at me in the back view mirror from time to time. Her expression filled with that same unreadable, confusing feeling. The Blackwell estate was located on a hillside, a spacious mansion built in a classic revival style, surrounded by groomed gardens and old-growth trees. When we arrived, most of the family was already there. In the living room, Grandpa Arthur sat in the large armchair. Next to him were Sophia's parents, her good-for-no brother Kevin, and a few other relatives. The instant we came in, all eyes were on me. There was derision, laughter, and blatant gloating. Well, if it isn't our family's great hero, what brings you here today?" A woman with excessive makeup, spoken in a saccharine, cutting tone. She was Sophia's cousin, Tiffany. "Tiffany, mind your manners," Sophia's mother murmured in a token admonition. But her face clearly stated, "Well said." Kevin was more forthright. He stepped right up to me and poked me in the chest. "Hey, loser. I heard you suffered a trip down the stairs yesterday. How come you didn't just die?" Before I could react, Sophia's frigid voice pierced through the air. "Kevin, get your hand off of him." Kevin froze, clearly astonished that his sister, who had never given a damn about me, would stand up on my behalf. He pouted and unwillingly pulled his hand away. "Grandfather," Sophia murmured, approaching the old man and giving a small bow. He nodded, his hazy eyes focusing on me. "Ethan, come sit." I did as he requested, taking a seat next to him. "I hear you and Sophia are getting a divorce," the old guy stated, coming straight to the issue. I nodded. "Yes, Grandfather. Why? I don't think I'm good enough for her," I responded, which was the basic truth. A wave of laughing flooded the room. "Oh, look at that. A little self-awareness," Tiffany remarked, nearly doubling over. "A loser should know his place," Kevin continued. Grandpa Arthur whacked his cane on the floor, and the room went silent. "All of you quiet." He glared around the room before his gaze focused back on me with a sigh. "Ethan, you've been wrong these past 2 years." I was a little astonished. It appeared the old man was the only one in this household who showed me any kindness. "You're the kind, Grandad. Since you've both made your decision, I won't say more." He removed a big packet from his jacket pocket and handed it to me. "Take this a little something from me. If you ever run into problems, you can always come to me." I didn't take it. "Grandfather, I appreciate the thought, but I can't accept it." I stood and gave him a deep bow. "Thank you for watching out for me these last 2 years. I only came today to say farewell." Just then, a man who looked like the butler ran in, his face blanched with dread. "Mr. Blackwell." "Sir, it's an emergency. There's a problem at the company." Sophia's father, Robert Blackwell, frowned. "What's got you in such a state?" "Our greatest competitor, Apex Innovations, just conducted a news conference. They've launched a new smart home system, the Apex Heart. Its features are essentially identical to our Blackwell Core, which we weren't scheduled to deploy until next month. Yet their pricing point is lower than our production cost." The words hit the room like a bomb. Blackwell Enterprises' most critical project had been hijacked. The color fled from Robert's face. Sophia's expression turned exceedingly grim. "How is that possible?" Project security was at the greatest level. Robert roared. Kevin's eyes darted around uncomfortably, avoiding his father's stare. It was crystal plain to me. An inside job, obviously. What do we do now? We've invested hundreds of millions into this. If it's a bust, this year's results will be a nightmare. The stock is going to plummet. Sophia's mother sobbed on the edge of tears. The room plunged into pandemonium, everyone shouting over each other in a panic like a swarm of hellish chickens. Only two people remained silent, Sophia and me. Sophia was rapidly attempting to create a strategy, and I was enjoying the show. The Apex Heart. I repeated the name under my breath and the essential info quickly sprang into my memory banks. In my prior world, a project with that exact name had a fatal technical defect. Within a week of its launch, it experienced a catastrophic collapse, bankrupting the company. A problem that I coincidentally had helped repair. I glanced at the stone-faced Sophia beside me, then at the fighting jumble of her family. A thought began to shape in my head. Maybe I could offer my ex-wife a modest parting gift. "It's over. It's all over." Robert Blackwell collapsed into the sofa, his face ashen. "Dad, this is not the time for it." Sophia's voice sounded terrifyingly calm. "Mark, get the PR people on this ASAP. I want the media narrative limited. All hands on deck and R&D. I want them to analyze the Apex Heart. I need a full comparative study in 3 hours." "Yes, Miss Blackwell." Mark was immediately on his phone relaying orders. She really was an ice queen, composed even in a crisis. "What's the point of analyzing it? They've already launched and they're cheaper. How are we expected to compete?" Kevin fled from the side, already vanquished. "Shut up," Sophia snapped. Kevin flinched and fell silent, watching the incident unfold. I gently stood up. Actually, it might not be that complicated. My voice wasn't loud, but in the bustling living room, it carried to every ear. Everyone turned to stare at me, their expressions all shouting the same thing. "What is a loser like you chiming in for? Ethan, this doesn't concern you. Go stand in a corner," Tiffany said, waving her hand dismissively as if shooing a fly. I ignored her and walked straight to Sophia. "Miss Blackwell, care to hear a story?" Sophia looked at me, her eyes sharp and analytical. She didn't dismiss me like the others. "Go on. I once read a business case study." I began. "There was a company in a situation very similar to yours. They developed a revolutionary product, but their rival stole it and launched first using a low-brick dumping strategy to corner the market." And then Sophia pressed. "And then that company did nothing. They just watched their rival run a massive marketing campaign. Watch them sell the product all over the country. What kind of stupid plan is that? Just waiting to die." Kevin couldn't help but interrupt. "Be quiet." Sophia shot a glare, then motioned for me to continue. "Once the rival's product had saturated the market and their capital was nearly depleted from the campaign, The first company suddenly held a press conference. They exposed a fatal flaw in the rival's product, a flaw that would cause all the hardware to simultaneously crash under specific conditions. I paused, watching Sophia's pupils contract. I knew she understood the consequences were predictable. The rival company not only faced massive recall and compensation costs, but more importantly, their reputation was completely destroyed. And the company that had been lying in wait then launched their own stable product, capturing the entire market in one fell swoop. When I finished, the living room was dead silent. Everyone was staring at me like I was some kind of alien. Ow. How you know the Apex heart has a flaw? Robert asked, his voice trembling. I said with a shrug. I was just telling the story. As for whether it has a flaw, isn't your tech team about to analyze it? Tell them to focus on the system's underlying data encryption and its timestamping algorithm, especially its stability under high concurrency stress tests. Everything I mentioned was a key component of the flaw from my previous life. Sophia stared at me, her chest rising and falling rapidly. She was an idiot. She knew I couldn't just be making this up. A useless son-in-law who only knew how to do laundry and cook. How could he possibly understand such advanced technical terms? Mark, she suddenly shouted, and Blackwell. Relay my last words verbatim to the director of technology. Tell them to investigate in the direction right now. Yes, Mark, though utterly confused, immediately complied. After that was done, Sophia turned back to me for the first time. Her expression held something I could only describe as pure shock. Who are you? I smiled. Ethan Clark, your worthless, good-for-nothing husband. I leaned in closer, lowering my voice. Or as of today, your soon-to-be ex-husband. With that, I turned my back on the stunned family and walked toward the door. Grandfather, everyone, I'll be leaving now. I think I'll skip this farewell dinner. I reached the door, my hand on the knob, when Sophia's voice called out from behind me. Wait. I turned to see her striding toward me. The divorce agreement. She held up the papers I had signed. I can't give it to you right now. Why not? I frowned. Until this corporate crisis is resolved, I need to project a stable family image to the public. And grandfather's health can't handle the shock. The excuse was flawless. That's your problem, not mine. Consider it a favor I owe you, she said, the words practically forced from between her teeth. For the proud Sophia Blackwell, this was as close to begging as she would ever get. I looked at her. Sunlight streamed in from the doorway, tracing her silhouette in gold. Her face, stripped of its usual icy mask, held a vulnerability and a desperation I had never seen before. I sighed internally. Fine. It wasn't like I was in a rush. Besides, I was curious to see what game this woman was really playing. All right, I agreed. But I'm not living at the estate anymore. I'm moving out. She seemed to let out a breath of relief. Fine, I'll arrange a place for you. Don't bother. I'll find my own. I pushed the door open and walked out without a backward glance, leaving behind the complicated stares of the Blackwell family and Sophia's gaze, which felt hot enough to burn a hole through my back. I knew in that moment the game had changed, and I was no longer a pawn. I was a player. I didn't go far. Just found a bench at the foot of the hill near the Blackwell estate and sat down. I took out the new phone Sophia had given me, powered it on, and set it up. Then I downloaded a few job search and stock trading apps. I needed a job to tide me over, and I needed to make my first pot of gold. Seeing the familiar candlestick charts on the trading app, I smiled. An old friend from my past life. With my memory, I knew of a few sleeper stocks that were about to go ballistic over the next 6 months. If I caught just one, my startup capital would be secured. As I was scrolling, a red Porsche pulled up in front of me. The window rolled down. It was Sophia. Get in, she said. Her tone clipped. What for? I'll give you a ride. No need. I can get in. Her voice left no room for argument. I sighed and pulled open the passenger door. The car moved, but she didn't ask for my destination. Just drove straight toward the city center. You know, Miss Blackwell, I can't afford a penthouse downtown, I reminded her. She ignored me, focusing on the road. About 15 minutes later, the car stopped in front of a high-end condominium complex. I followed her into the lobby, up an elevator to the 23rd floor. She opened the door to a sleek, fully furnished two-bedroom apartment. "Moving, ready, you can stay here for now." She placed a key card on the console by the door. "I told you I could find quiet," she cut me off. "You help the Blackwells. I can't have you living on the street. I'll cover the rent and utilities. Just stay here." I looked at her. Something was wrong. This was all too strange. Even if I had helped her, a woman of her disposition would at most write me a check. She wouldn't be micromanaging my living arrangements. She wasn't setting up a soon-to-be ex-husband. It felt more like she was caging a pet or perhaps putting a dangerous person under surveillance. "Sophia, what is it you really want?" I asked, looking her straight in the eye. She avoided my gaze, walking over to the floor-to-ceiling windows to look out at the city lights. "I just think you've changed," she said quietly. "I need time to understand who you are now. So, you put me in the building directly across from yours." I came to her side and pointed out the window. Across the way, in an even more luxurious tower, the lights were on in the penthouse. It was her apartment. From here, I had a clear view into her living room. Her body stiffened. "A coincidence," she said, her voice tight. "Is it?" I laughed. "Sophia, are you hiding something from me?" She spun around, her emotions suddenly raw. "What could I possibly be hiding? Ethan, don't flatter yourself. I'm keeping you around for the company's sake. As soon as this crisis is over, we're finalizing the divorce." The more agitated she got, the more certain I was that I was right. Just then, her phone rang. It was Mark. "Ms. Blackwell, you were right. It's unbelievable." Mark's voice was high-pitched with excitement. "R&D found it? There's a massive logic bomb in the Apex Hartscore algorithm. Under high concurrency, the system's timestamping goes haywire, and it crashes the whole network. It's a ticking time bomb." An expression of profound relief washed over Sophia's face. She hung up and looked at me, the shock in her eyes now a tidal wave of awe. "How did you know?" she asked, each word deliberate. "I told you. I read a case study." "I don't believe you." She took a step closer, invading my space. "A fault of that scale. Unless you were one of the primary engineers who designed it, there's no way you could have known." "Who are you?" Her breath ghosted across my face, carrying a faint, expensive perfume. We were less than a foot apart. I could see her long eyelashes trembling, betraying the turmoil within. "Does it matter who I am?" I countered. "What counts is that I can help you, right?" She fell silent. After a long moment, she stepped back, creating distance between us. "What do you want?" she asked, returning to her favorite question. "I told you I don't want anything." I strolled over to the sofa and sat down, getting comfortable. "But I've changed my mind." Her eyes narrowed. "I want a position as a technical consultant for Blackwell Enterprises," I added, establishing my first requirement. "Annual compensation, let's say $250,000. That's not too much, is it?" In the end, Sophia agreed to my requirements. She had no other alternative. The next morning, I went with her to the headquarters of Blackwell Enterprises. When I was introduced as a technical consultant, jaws hit the floor. Mark in particular gazed at me as if I had stepped off a UFO. "Ms. Blackwell, isn't this against protocol? Mr. Clark, does he have any relevant experience?" Mark whispered, pulling her aside. "Do you need to question my decisions?" Sophia aimed a stern stare at him. Mark quickly shut up. She gave me a private office just next to hers. I relaxed into the cushy executive chair, stared out at the city skyline, and marveled at the absurdity of life. A day ago, I was a loathed, useless husband. Today, I was a consultant with a $4 million salary. This is the documentation for all our current R&D projects. Get yourself up to speed. Sophia stepped in, putting a stack of binders on my desk. "All this, Ms. Blackwell. I'm a consultant, not a workhorse. That story you told me yesterday, Tell it to me again. Every detail. She ignored my objection, drawing up a chair and sitting across from me. I knew she was attempting to probe me to find out just how much I truly knew. I didn't hold back. I read all the case study from my prior life. The reason, the method, the outcome, embellishing the technical specifics and business machinations. Of course, I attributed it all to a fake friend. Sophia listened with keen focus, sometimes frowning, sometimes nodding, occasionally taking notes. When I was finished, she stared at me with something fresh in her eyes. It wasn't shock or confusion. It was a frenzy. Yes, that was it. A fervor, like a treasure hunter who has just uncovered a map to El Dorado. This friend of yours, where is he now? She asked. Dead, I said, making it up on the moment. Tragic accident. The brilliant ones typically go too soon. An expression of great disappointment clouded her face. Ethan, she murmured, rose and stepping up to my desk. She braced her hands on it, bending forward to look me straight in the eye. From now on, you don't need to worry about any other projects. Your only job is to help me. Help me take down Apex Innovations. Help me win this war. Her face was nearer, so close I could smell the clean aroma of her hair. What's in it for me? I inquired deliberately. If we win, I'll give you 1% of the company's shares, she offered, dangling an appealing hook. 1% of Blackwell Enterprises was worth at a minimum $100 million. I have to acknowledge the woman had guts. Deal, I said, nodding. Pleasure doing business with you, Ms. Blackwell. She straightened up, satisfied, her chilly composure restored. And one more thing, she murmured, halting at the entrance. In the office, don't call me Ms. Blackwell. Use my name. Understood, Ms. Blackwell. A muscle in her jaw trembled. She didn't say anything else, just turned and left. For the next 3 days, I lived the dream of working from a corner office. My only objective was to research Apex Innovations. But thanks to the script in my head, I didn't have to. I spent my days drinking coffee, following the financial market, and occasionally dumping a prophecy on Sophia when she came to ask for an update. I'd tell her that Apex's next move would be to seek a partnership with the overseas VC firm, Lionheart Capital. 2 days later, reports would leak that Apex's CEO, Damon Vance, had flown to Newark for a secret meeting with Lionheart executives. I'd inform her that to fast acquire market share, Vance would sign exclusive high-cost bundling deals with the 3 top home appliance manufacturers. A week later, their websites were flooded with adverts for the Apex Heart. Each uncannily precise forecast shifted Sophia's perspective of me from distrust to reliance. The way she looked at me initiated a transformation. Before she was an iceberg, now she was a volcano, one that could erupt at any time. And my own interest was building. She was going to such lengths to keep me by her side, utilizing my precognition to fight her foes. Was it really only about saving the company? I had a hunch there was a deeper motivation, a motive that seemed to be tied to this Damien Vance. In the original Ethan's memories, Vance was a significant role in his tragic tragedy. He had always craved Sophia's beauty and her company, and he treated the original Ethan like trash, continuously humiliating him. Sophia's own attitude toward Vance was unusual. As her mortal adversary, she should have detested him. But whenever she said his name, her eyes conveyed not just hatred, but also a trace of dread. Yes, fear. Why would a millionaire CEO be terrified of her competitor? It didn't make any sense unless she knew something no one else did. Something bad about Damien Vance and maybe about me too. The turning point came one night a week later. Sophia called me, her voice tense with a barely repressed terror. Get to the Obsidian Lounge right now. Hurry. Obsidian was the most exclusive high-end club in the city. What was a former kept husband meant to do there? What happened? It's Damien. He's wanting to see you by name. My stomach sank. So, it had come to this. According to the original Ethan's memory, Damon Vance was a vicious, vengeful man. with his flagship project being gradually demolished by Blackwell Enterprises. He must have gotten suspicious. Summoning me could only imply one thing. It was a trap. Don't go. Sophia's breathing was raspy on the other end of the line. He's a psychopath. You can't handle him. Stay in the unit. Don't move. I'll take care of it. You'll take care of it. How? I responded. Did you forget? I'm the technical consultant for Blackwell Enterprises. When the supervisor delivers an order, how can I refuse? I hung up, hailed an Uber, and headed directly for the Obsidian Lounge. I wanted to see what kind of game Damon Vance was playing. More importantly, I wanted to utilize this occasion to force Sophia's hand to have her tell me the truth. She was keeping. The Obsidian Lounge was all dark wood and gleaming brass. In my jeans and a casual shirt, I stuck out like a sore thumb among the sea of tailored suits. I provided Damon's name to the hostess who brought me respectfully to a secluded suite. On the top floor, I pushed open the door. The vast area was empty except for one man. He was dressed in a nice white suit with gold-rimmed glasses. He appeared polished, almost academic, yet his eyes were cold and reptilian. This was Damon Vance. Mr. Clark, I've heard so much about you, he added with a smile, gesturing to the seat opposite him. I sat down without ceremony. You're the kind, Mr. Vance. I'm just an ordinary guy. An ordinary guy. He let out a quiet giggle. The man Sophia Blackwell promotes against all reason. The one who can predict my every move. Is that what you call an ordinary guy? He poured a glass of whiskey and pushed it toward me. Mr. Clark, let's not play games. You're a smart man. Whatever Sophia is paying you, I'll double it. I picked up the glass, swirling the amber liquid. You think that highly of me. I don't just think highly of you. I admire you, he said, leaning forward and lowering his voice. Stick with Sophia, and you'll always be the embarrassing husband, a tool to be used. But if you join me, I can give you everything you want. Money, power, women. He paused, adding with pointed significance, including Sophia. I laughed. Mr. Vance, I think you've misunderstood something, I said, setting the glass down. Sophia and I are about to be divorced. Her business is none of my business. None of your business. Damon looked like he just heard the funniest joke in the world. Ethan, don't play dumb with me. You think I don't know why you suddenly got so smart. My heart hammered against my ribs, but I kept my face impassive. I'm listening. He leaned back, a cruel smile playing on his lips. Because you, like me, are not from this world. Are you my fellow player? The word player hit me like a bolt of lightning. My mind went blank. He was a transmigrator, too. No, that wasn't the word he used. He said player. Ah, so you don't know yet. Seeing my stunned expression, Damien's smile widened. Makes sense. You're just an NPC after all. A slightly special one, maybe. How would you know the truth about this world? NPC world. Truth? 1,000 questions exploded in my head. What are you talking about? I forced myself to remain calm. I'm talking about the fact, he said, standing and walking over to me, clapping a hand on my shoulder, that this world is nothing more than a game called Urban Overlord. And I am a beta tester. I have a system. I know how the entire plot is supposed to go. He leaned down, his voice a whisper only I could hear. I know that you, Ethan Clark, are a minor antagonist in the early stages of the game. Your purpose is to be crushed under my heel, which in turn fuels the heroine Sophia's hatred for me, driving our romantic subplot forward. According to the original script, you should have been framed by me by now, your reputation destroyed before dying a pathetic death on the streets. But you little NPC, you seem to have bugged out. Not only did you not die, you got smart. You even started to interfere with the plot. So, I'm curious, he said, straightening up and looking down on me. Which programmer wrote such an interesting piece of AI code for you? My brain shut down. Game NPC plot. So, this was the truth of this world. I hadn't traveled to a parallel dimension. I had been dropped into a game, and I had become a self-aware non-player character. It was insane. So, now you have the choices. Damien's voice pulled me back to reality. 1. Submit to me. Be my dog. I might let you live a little longer. Or 2. He didn't finish, but the murderous intent in his eyes said it all. Just then, the door to the suite was thrown open with a bang. Sophia rushed in, her face pale, her breathing heavy. She saw me sitting there unharmed and sagged with relief. "Damien, don't you dare touch him," she yelled, positioning herself in front of me like a lion is protecting her cub. "Well, look who it is. The heroine arrives." Damien applauded slowly, his smile mocking. "Sophia, your timing is perfect. I was just about to ask you, why are you so protective of this NPC? Have you, like him, awakened to something you shouldn't have?" Sophia's body went rigid. Her lips trembled. The look she gave Damien was filled with fear and despair. I stared at her back, and in a flash of insight, a crazy idea connected all the dots. Sophia's strange behavior, her fear of Damien, her contradictory impulses to push me away and pull me closer. She hadn't awakened to anything. She already knew the game script. She wasn't a player, and she wasn't just an NPC. She was a reader who had seen the walkthrough. "I don't know what you're talking about." Sophia's voice trembled, but she stood her ground, a shield between me and him. "You don't." Damien's laugh was laced with poison. "Sophia, stop pretending. From the moment you suddenly decided to divorce this loser, I knew something was off. Every move you've made has been an attempt to derail the plot. You don't want him to die." He looked at me then, his eyes glinting like I was a fascinating lab rat. "Tell me, why would the heroine of a game go to such lengths to protect a minor antagonist who is destined to be killed off?" I didn't answer him. My gaze was fixed on Sophia's back. Her slim shoulders were shaking, the expensive coat suddenly looking like fragile armor that might shatter at any moment. I finally understood why she had rushed the divorce, offer me $500,000, and try to drive me out of the city. Because in the script, if I stay by her side, Damien would systematically destroy me. She thought that if I just left, I could escape the plot and save my own life. Why? She had pulled me back in, making me a consultant after I revealed my knowledge. Because she saw that I, the NPC, had bug out. I had the ability to fight back against the plot. She saw a glimmer of hope, a chance to defeat Damien and change both our fates. Why she was so conflicted, constantly pushing me away and pulling me close. Because she was terrified of me getting hurt because of her. Yet, she had no choice but to rely on my abilities to survive. This whole time, this woman had been protecting me in her own clumsy, desperate way. And I had thought she was manipulating me, using me. A wave of emotion crashed over me. Guilt, gratitude, and a sharp, aching tenderness. I slowly stood up, came to her side, and gently took her cold hand in mine. Her body jolted. She turned to look at me, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Don't be afraid," I said, my voice low enough for only her to hear. "I'm here." Her eyes instantly welled up. The iceberg that had protected her for so long finally began to show signs of melting. "Oh, are we having a tender moment?" Damien clapped slowly. "How touching. But surely you don't think this changes the ending." He snapped his fingers. The doors opened again, and a dozen large men in black suits filed in, blocking the exit. "Ethan, I'm giving you one last chance." Damien's voice turned to steel. "Kneel or die." The temperature in the room plummeted. Sophia squeezed my hand tighter, her palm slick with sweat, but I just smiled. "Damien," I said, looking at him as if he were a petulant child, "I think you're the one who's misunderstood something." "What's that?" "You think being a player makes you God." I shook my head. "Did it ever occur to you that if an NPC gets a better cheat code than the player, the roles of who's the main character might just get reversed?" Damien frowned. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about this," I said, pulling out my phone and pressing play. A recording filled the suite. "This world is nothing more than a game called Urban Overlord, and I am a beta tester. I know that you, Ethan Clark, are a minor antagonist. According to the original script, you should have been framed by me by now, dying a pathetic death on the streets. It was our entire conversation. I had started recording the moment I walked in. The color drained from Damien's face. You recorded me. Here, Ord. Why not? I put my phone away. Mr. Vance, if I were to leak this recording online, what do you think would happen? The CEO of a publicly traded company, admitting to framing his rivals and claiming the world as a video game. Do you think people would call me crazy or you're dead? Damien was furious. He gave his man a look. Take it down. The thug started to close in. Sophia let out a small cry, instinctively trying to shield me. But I gently moved her behind me and faced the advancing men with perfect calm. Damien, are you sure you want to do this here? My voice was quiet, but stopped them in their tracks. This is the Obsidian Lounge, the most secure, high-profile club in the city. You start a brawl here, and by tomorrow morning, you and Apex Innovations will be front-page news. I wonder if your friends at Lionheart Capital will still want to fund you then. Damien's fists were clenched so tight his knuckles were white. The muscles in his face twitched with rage. He looked at me with an expression of pure murderous hatred. But he didn't give the order. He was a player. He knew the rules. Using violence in a public space would trigger a police intervention event, causing his reputation and company value to plummet. It was a game mechanic, and I, an awakened NPC, now understood the rules just as well. We're leaving, I said, taking Sophia's hand and walking toward the door as if no one else was there. The thugs looked at Damien, but without his command, they didn't move. We strolled right into their circle at the doorway. I stopped and looked back at Damien, a slight smile on my face. Oh, and by the way, the patch for that flaw in the Apex heart, I already sent it to Sophia. Your product is now a worthless pile of e-waste. The game is just getting started, player. And with that, I pulled a still reeling Sophia out of the room, leaving Damon Vance to let out a raw, animalistic roar of fury behind us. Walking out of the Obsidian Lounge, the cool night air felt like a balm. Sophia was still in a state of shock, letting me lead her by the hand without a word. I put her in the passenger seat of her car and got behind the wheel myself. Where to? I asked. She didn't answer. She just looked at me, her eyes full of tears. She was too proud to let fall. You know, she finally whispered, her voice. Yeah. I started the car. When I started getting suspicious when you asked me to the family dinner, I said as I drove. Then when you set me up in the apartment across from yours, I was sure. But it wasn't until tonight that all the pieces clicked together. The car was silent for a while, the city's neon lights streaking past the windows. So, I'm just an NPC, right? I asked, my voice calm. She flinched, then nodded. And what about you? I pressed. Who are you? A player or an NPC like me? She shook her head and the tears finally escaped, tracing puffs down her cheeks. I'm not, she choked out. I'm just a reader. In broken sentences, she told me her story. About 6 months ago, a file had mysteriously appeared on her computer, Urban Overlord. She'd opened it out of curiosity and discovered it was a web novel. A web novel in which the heroine had her exact name. At first, she thought it was a prank, but as she read, she stopped laughing. The events in the novel began to happen one by one in her real life. She saw her own fate laid out on the page, and she saw mine. In the book, I was a tragic figure, a throwaway character designed to make the hero Damien look good and to advance the plot between him and Sophia. The script said that after our divorce, I would be hounded by Damien, eventually dying in a stage car accident. My death was the catalyst that would finally push her to fight back, leading to a dramatic, drawn-out conflict between her and Damien. I didn't want you to die, she said, her eyes shining with tears. The you in the book, it was so awful. I didn't want you to have that ending. So, you tried to push me away. She nodded. I wanted you to leave the city to get as far away from the plot as possible. I thought if you were gone, it wouldn't happen. I didn't know what to say. Incredibly naive. If this world truly was a game, the plot would have a powerful corrective force. Even if I had left the city, Damien the player would have found 1,000 ways to track me down and complete his quest. I never expected you to change so completely, she said quietly. You started fighting back. You seemed to know the plot even better than Damien. I started to wonder if my efforts had done something, if they made you awaken. I pulled the car over near the riverbank and silenced the engine. The moon gleamed over the dark lake. I turned to face her. Sophia. Yes, thank you. She looked stunned. I leaned out and gently wiped the tears from her cheek. Her skin was cold like porcelain. Thank you for not treating me like an NPC. Her lips parted as if to say something, but she didn't. She merely gazed at me, her gaze filled with a tenderness and trust one had never seen before. So what we do now? She questioned. What do you mean? I smiled. We fight. He is a player. I'm an NPC with a cheat code. He has a system. I have the spoilers. The game's not over yet. My confidence seemed to be contagious. Her expression hardened with a new resolve. You're right, she said, nodding firmly. Together, we'll beat this stupid game. Seeing the fighting spirit return to her eyes, I couldn't help but grin. I reached out and pulled her into a hug. Her body tensed for a second, but she didn't push me away. After a moment's hesitation, she wrapped her arms around my waist, holding on tight. It was the first real embrace we had shared into years of marriage. The river breeze blew past, carrying the scent of the water. I knew from that moment on, we weren't a husband and wife in a contract marriage. We weren't a couple on the verge of divorce. We were partners in this cold, artificial game of a world. We were the only two people who could truly count on each other. The next day, Blackwell Enterprises held a press conference. Sophia stood at the podium facing 100 reporters and announced that the Blackwell core system was undergoing a major upgrade. Furthermore, they would be making its core architecture open source, inviting the entire industry to help build an open smartemy ecosystem. At the same time, she offered a friendly reminder to consumers that a certain system on the market called the Apex part had a fatal technical flaw and that purchasing it would be unwise. It was a brilliant, ruthless move that cut Damien off at the knees. Apex Innovation stock crashed, losing over $3 billion in market value in a single day. Damon Vance became the laughing stock of the industry. I watched the live stream from my office, a smile playing on my lips as I saw Sophia command the stage. Once she was free from her burdens, she was more radiant than anyone. Nicely done, I said, handing her a glass of water when she returned. It was all you, she said, taking a sip. Her face was tired, but her eyes were electric with victory. I just gave you the idea. You were the one who made it happen. I moved behind her chair and began gently massaging her temples. I'd learned the technique from a doctor friend in my past life. She stiffened for a moment, then relaxed into the touch, closing her eyes. Damien won't take this line down, she murmured. I know my hands didn't stop. He is a player. When a quest fails, they always try to find another way. His next move will probably involve his system. Yeah. Every player gets a special ability. My guess is that Damien's is some kind of event trigger system. He completes certain tasks to get rewards or to inflict penalties on us. So, what do we do? She asked, a note of anxiety in her voice. Don't worry, I said with a smile. He knows the plot, but I know the bugs. All we have to do is get ahead of him and disrupt every event he tries to trigger. In the days that followed, Sophia and I became a two-person team of game hackers, systematically dismantling Damon's plans. He tried to get close to a powerful senator at a charity gala to trigger a political connection quest line. I had Sophia preemptively fund a new charter school in the senator's district and invite him to be the guest of honor at the ribbon cutting. He tried to acquire a struggling video game studio to start building his media empire. I contacted the studio's founder first, using a few blockbuster game concepts from my past life to convince him to accept an investment from Blackwell Enterprises instead. Even tried to have another accident arranged for me. I tipped off the police anonymously, and the thugs he hired were arrested for conspiracy before they even got near me. Failure after failure drove Damien to the brink of insanity. He was like a player holding a strategy guide for a game that had just received a massive unannounced patch. Every move he made was wrong-footed and useless. And through it all, Sophia and I grew closer. We stopped sleeping in separate rooms. We still had our own comforters. But waking up and seeing someone else next to me brought a sense of peace I hadn't realized I was missing. She started making me breakfast. Simple things like avocado toast and coffee. I'd bring her dinner when she worked late. Our conversation shifted from business and Damien to the small details of our lives. She complained about her brother Kevin's latest screw-up. I tell her stories about my friend's embarrassing moments from my past life. The iceberg was melting. The invisible wall between us was about to crumble. The final battle came sooner than I expected. We had pushed Damien into a corner. Apex Innovations' funding had dried up. Its stock was worthless, and it was on the verge of being delisted. Every plot advantage he tried to use had been neutralized. He knew that if things continued, the player was going to be permanently deleted by the NPCs. So, he did the one thing I didn't fully anticipate. He kidnapped Sophia. I was just adding the final comment to a piece of code when he sent the picture. Sophia was tied to a chair in what looked like an abandoned factory, her mouth taped shut. Her face was pale, but her eyes were defiant. The text followed. "Ethan, if you want her to live, come to the old steel mill on the west side. Alone, no tricks, or I'll give her an ending that wasn't in the book." I closed my laptop and grabbed my jacket. My expression was calm, but inside, a cold fury was building. Damien Vance had crossed the line. I didn't call the police. This was the final showdown between us. Involving them would only complicate things. I drove out to the west side alone. The abandoned mill was a skeleton of rust and decay. I saw Damien standing in the center of the vast space, and I saw Sophia tied to a steel support beam. "You came," Damon said. He seemed relieved that I was alone, but his relief quickly twisted into a vicious grin. "I was starting to think you wouldn't. Let her go," I said. "Let her go." He laughed. "Ethan, you still don't get it, do you? I'm in charge here. I'm the player. I make the rules." He walked over to Sophia and traced the line of her cheek with a combat knife. "You think I wouldn't do it? I could scar this pretty face, or I could just kill her." Sophia was trembling, but she looked at me with worry, not fear. Her eyes begged me to leave to save myself. "Foolish woman." "Damien," I said, my voice dangerously level. "Did you ever stop to think why you, the player, have been beaten so thoroughly by an NPC?" He paused. "It's because you rely too much on your system. You think knowing the plot makes you invincible. But you forgot every program has bugs. Every script has loopholes." I started walking toward him one slow step at a time. "Your plot is full of holes. Your system is a joke. You're lying." He screamed, agitated. "I'm the player, the chosen one. You're all just stepping stones for me." "Am I?" I was less than 20 feet away. "Then tell me, do you know what the biggest bug in this entire game is?" "What?" he asked instinctively. "The biggest bug." I exploded into a sprint, closing the distance in a blur. "Is that a cast a former Special Forces operator as a useless son-in-law?" That was right. In my last life, before I was a software architect on the verge of cashing out, I spent 5 years in the Army Rangers, close quarters combat, marksmanship, demolitions. I was an expert. None of that was in the Urban Overlord novel. None of that was in my NPC character sheet. It was my own personal cheat code. Damon was just a guy. His only advantage was his knowledge of the game. When I went off script and chose to solve the problem with raw violence, he had no idea what to do. It took one move, a clean, efficient takedown that slammed him onto the concrete floor. The knife flew from his hand, clattering away into the darkness. I pinned him with a foot on his chest. "Now, who's in charge?" I asked, looking down at him. His eyes were wide with terror and disbelief. Who? What are you? Someone you shouldn't have messed with. I picked up his knife and cut the ropes binding Sophia. She slumped forward and I caught her, holding her tight. It's okay, I whispered into her hair. It's over. And in my arms, she finally broke down, crying out all the fear and worry she had held inside for so long. Damon was arrested. Attempted kidnapping on top of all the evidence of corporate crime we had gathered was enough to put him away for a very long time. His system, it seemed, had no counter for a lengthy prison sentence. Apex Innovations filed for bankruptcy. The chaos started by one player was finally over. Our lives returned to a semblance of normalcy, or rather it entered a new phase. The day after the steel mill, Sophia moved into my apartment. Her excuse was that her penthouse felt too big and scary to live in alone. I watched her hang her clothes in my closet and arrange her skincare products on my bathroom counter, pretending not to notice the triumphant little smile on her face. The divorce agreement. She fed it into a paper shredder during our victory celebration, turning it into confetti. Ethan, she said, hugging me from behind while I was making coffee one morning. Can we start over for real this time? I turned in her arms, cubed her face in my hands, and kissed her. It wasn't like our first hesitant kisses, but deep and sure, full of a quiet promise. When we finally broke apart, she was breathless, a lovely blush on her cheeks. I have one more question, I said. That urban overlord novel. What happened at the end? Oh, she said, pulling away and running to the bedroom. She came back with her laptop and opened the file. I saw that the text ended where she'd said, Ethan Clark died in a car crash. A grief-stricken Sophia, devastated by the loss, vowed to avenge him. But underneath the final sentence, there was a new paragraph written in a different font. Author's note. Okay, but what if Ethan didn't die? What if he was secretly rescued by a mysterious organization? And after 3 years of intensive training, he returns to the city as a king, ready to take back everything that was stolen from him. I read the breathless fan fiction-wide text and started to laugh. You wrote this? I asked. Sophia's face turned bright red. Well, I was mad. It wasn't fair that you just died like that. I wanted you to have a better ending. I smiled and pulled her back into my arms. All this time, even before she knew I could change, she had been trying to rewrite my fate. Sweetheart, I said softly. Yes, in the original book, after you decided to get revenge on Damien. What happened next? I was curious. In the real story, without me, how did she fight a player all on her own? Sophia's body went still in my arms, an almost imperceptible tension. She looked up at me, a strange, unreadable light in her eyes. It was a complex expression, part memory, part something else she was trying to hide. Then she gave me a smile that was both sweet and just a little bit wicked. Oh, the book, she said. That's where the author stopped updating.